welcome to another episode of Is It Worth It, where I go around the world and the internet trying to find products that are interesting and beneficial to you as an artist to hopefully make it a more enjoyable process and or just easier. We are continuing down the road of the inking month because of Inktober. Everyone is in that craze of inking, and I'm trying to see if there are some tools that are out there that are just beneficial to you. And today we are actually going to be reviewing the Shinhan Art Touch liners, and I've heard good things about this fine liner pack, and we're going to try the different variations. It's going from 0.005 to 0.8, and we'll check out the different nibs and we will just see if this is actually worth it. I've heard a lot about these fine liners, and I'm hoping that they're actually pretty decent. Let's see, it says pigment ink, water resistant, archival quality, acid free, smear proof, water based, light fast, instant drying, xylene free, and AP mark. Now it says that it's water based, and as far as we know, when it comes to like markers and these like mark brushes, these ink brushes, the water-based thing always destroys your paper. But I'm thinking because they are fine liners, or in this case touch aligners, that it's not going to put out enough ink. It's not going to produce enough ink to destroy your paper. Okay, so let's see. The packaging itself is just a plastic case, right? It's tight, like it's nice and tight in there. It's pretty sturdy, but it is just a plastic case with a little flip top. The pens are they're pretty nice, right? They're pretty darn sturdy. It is plastic, like it is a plastic, but it doesn't feel plastic. So it doesn't feel cheap at all, so that's really good. It's a nice size, fits good in your hand, and you know, I have pretty big hands, so this is actually a nice pen. I like the way it feels. And the snap's not that strong, but it actually does hold. Like when you pull it, you can feel the resistance, right? So you know that the actual connection's pretty good. So that's good. Cap test, which seems to be something that we've been doing a lot, is just the cap test to see if it will actually fit back there. So fits on the cap, looks good. I'm not a big fan of these itty bitty tiny nibs, but it has a nice nib to it. Let's look at the bigger one. This is 0.8. Okay, so once again, decent, nice nib. So let's go ahead and try them out. Alright. So we're just going to go from smallest to largest, and we're going to test that out and see what that's like. This over. Okay. So the little ones actually, it doesn't feel as though it's tiny. Like I've used different type of fine liners, and the nib and everything makes you feel like you're just going to break it. So that's good. What I'm noticing though is the faster you go, see that? See how that's going? So the faster you go, the less ink that comes out. Now that might just be because it's an old. You know how sometimes you get pens and they sit in the store, and so you don't actually know how long they've been there. So it might just be that. But at least with this one, it seems to be pretty consistent. So, but if you go slower, right, the ink is, nope. So this one, at least the 0.05 doesn't seem to be putting out as much ink. And like I said, it might actually just be because it's an older pack. I don't know. All right, but I do have to say that the 0.05 is actually, it feels nice, right? So it's not it's not something that you go, oh my goodness, as soon as I use it, it's going to snap into pieces. So that's good. All right, so this is the 0.1. Also, just feels nice in your hand. Puts out a nice amount of ink. And see, as you can see, like this pen isn't having any issues with the ink. So I'm thinking that maybe that one just sat there. You know, I know it's in the same package, but sometimes it just, you know, doesn't always work as well as you'd like. And of course, we can't judge it on the bevel. So once it goes up that piece of the lip, right? Because your pen and paper aren't touching each other. So, but it actually, I mean, this is the 01. I normally stay away from these as well, but it is definitely holding its own here. So that's good. And it doesn't pool like the 0.05. It was pooling, right? So I don't know if you guys can see that, right? But it would pool at the very beginning. So that's something. But the 0.1, so the 0.1 isn't actually pooling. So that's good. All right, so 0.3 or the 0.3. Oh, and I like how it's like black, you know, like it is definitely coming out a nice opaque black, right? No waving, no, like these are good. Right, and you can still get a thinner line, and then if you push a little bit, you get a nice. So if you push on these, you know, if you put some weight behind it, the ink is actually more opaque, right? Because you're actually pushing down, and I'm assuming forcing out some ink, right? So this is actually really good, and it holds up. You know, one of the things that I've realized about most ink pens is that they don't actually hold up when you're moving fast. And so, you know, you have to do this, and that's where you get all those wavy lines. So being able to actually make quick gestures really does help. So that's nice. So this 03, I'm normally a 0.5 type person. So having a 0.3 actually be impressive enough to where it's like, oh, you know what, I would use that one. It's not too thick, it's not too thin. I like that. All right, let's see, we got the 05. Yeah, 05 works, you know, works just as well. And that, I mean, the speed one is what's important to me, right? I mean, of course, the opaque ink, which is great, right? It's nice and black, and when you go over it, it is just black. It's not, oh, well, it's half gray and then black, so you got to go over things twice. It's black, you know, so that the ink that's coming out of here is definitely top notch. It is definitely high quality. So bringing out these means that when you make that first line, that's it, right? That's all you need. You don't need to go back over it, which is great. And so, you know, these pens are actually really good, really nice. And the 05 is also not as thick as some of the others, but I have to say, like, the nib on these things, like, they don't waver. I don't feel like I'm gonna break them. So the nib on these are great. I mean, the 0.1, 0.3, 0.5, these are all great. Like, I'm not a big fan of the 0.05 anyway, but that one was definitely the weaker of the group. Like, it started fading and breaking apart and stuff like that, but all the other ones have been absolutely fantastic. So I mean, that's great. Let's try this 08, or 0.8. Let's see how thick these lines are. Look at that. I mean, it's not too thick, right? Not too thick, not too thin. Really good, so you can actually come in and try and get those, or beef up your line weight a little bit. So these fine liners, touch liners, are actually really nice. I do enjoy this ink. It's one thing that bothers me a lot is when it's not opaque, right? And you're trying to ink and you have to go over the line, like you go over the line and then you have to go over it again a couple times just to make sure that it's black. And that's not the case with these. It's like it's black the minute you put it down. So these are great. Now, it did say that it was smear proof. So we're gonna take the biggest ink, right? I mean, none of these, right? So they dry, just like it says. It's like quick drying, so that's good, right? Like we've touched on other inks that when you went over it anyway, it just smeared everywhere. So we're gonna just draw a line, right? With the biggest line, give it 3-4 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Right? Nothing. Right? So that's good. Look at that. So actually let's I wonder, hold on. I wonder if I did this. Okay, put down some ink. We'll wait a couple seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Nope. Okay. So you do have to. If you put down a lot of ink, I mean that's not the pen's fault, right? Like I put down a lot of ink to try and go over it. But once again, these are not meant for covering vast amounts of space. You should use something else, like a brush or a Sharpie or something that is bigger so that you can cover more space. But I mean, yes, I smeared it because there was a lot of ink. As soon as I touched it, I could still tell that it hadn't dried, and that wasn't fair, you know. So, but the thing is that when you make your line and you go 1, 2, 3, you wait 3 seconds, right? That's there, right? That is there. Now, the one thing that I should have done with all the other ones is the eraser test. Like, because one of the things that I hate is when you erase and then it just becomes really this dull gray. So we're just gonna kind of go over it. All right, it's not that bad, right? It does lose some of its pigment, but I've seen some that just with a regular white eraser, that you go over it and then it just completely disappears. But that's actually still pretty much there. Right. So, I mean, like I said, it does erase a little bit, but I've seen so much worse. So let's draw a quick eyeball. All right, we'll just. All right, I'm going to use a 0.08 just so that it's nice and thick and you can see it. Okay, so we're just gonna come in here and just really quickly draw this in. And once again, I'm actually filling it in, which with something this small, it's one thing you can fill it in. Just know, right, that it still might be wet. So you want to give it some time. But you don't have to, luckily with these, you don't have to give it forever, right? So you just give it a couple seconds. I do like how the ink flows out. You know, it's actually really nice. You can get some nice, oh, it's so black. It's like it's so opaque black. So that ink is fantastic, right? So you got that, and we'll break out my stencil because I don't draw pretty nice circles. So come in here. There's that. Right, not that important, but it's important to me. Okay. I think with something small like that, you can fill it in, right? So there's your eye. We're gonna have to give it a couple seconds because I did just fill in that that eyeball with a very thick opaque line. I mean, the fill in with the color, so it's probably still gonna be a little wet, but you know, then you can touch, like you'll always know, like this is dry now, right? The eyebrow is dry, but that still needs some time. So we're gonna erase the eyebrow. Right, just easy. Ooh, that was the first line I made. Oh, see, when you go over it a bunch, it kind of erases out. Oh, yep. See? Erasing my paper off. Now I don't know if that's still because it's wet, but it was weird because it felt dry, right? It felt dry, and all of this didn't happen to that, right? So you could erase that and it's just fine, but this one I'm assuming was still a bit wet, and that's why it pooled. So the one thing that you need to know, I would say, about this is watch the timing on that, okay? Because if it's still wet and then you erase it, it's just like erasing wet paper, right? You're gonna pull it up. But I think that, you know, you can't do, with any wet medium for that matter, you can't really just go, oh, it's wet, it's dry, okay, let me go ahead and erase it. So if you're doing a full piece, you need to give it some time to dry. So yeah. All right, so we just got done reviewing the Shinhan Art Touch liners, and I have to say that for the most part, these are actually pretty good. They are some of the better fine liners that I've used. The weight, the feel of the pen is actually really good. I do not care for the 0.05. It didn't seem to work. I mean, all the other ones were actually working really well. Ink flowed. So if they were all in the same pack, that the ink should have been just as good, or the flow. So 0.05 is not on my top list, but the rest of them are actually pretty cool, to the point to where I would actually drop down in size in the fine liners that I use, because normally I'm a 0.5, 0.8 type person, but the nibs on these were good enough that I would go to a 0.3, even a 0.1 to ink my stuff. It was actually pretty good. So that's a plus. Like, I love the stability of the nibs and the ink that comes out. It is definitely black, right? It is opaque. Some of the downfalls is that when you erase it, it does fade a bit. Now, that has been for every single fine liner that I've ever used. It does fade a little bit. And the one thing that you need to worry about is it still being wet. So it seems as though if you actually put a little bit, like if you go over something a couple times, that you need to let it sit. Like you got to give it more than the couple seconds that I gave. So you want to just make sure that it's dry. But once it's dry, it's pretty steadfast. It doesn't smear. Okay, that's the big one. And that's pretty much it. It's actually a good fine liner. I would recommend these for you. I don't know if you need to get the pack. Just go ahead and pick up a 0.1, 0.3, 0.5, or 0.8. But I mean, if you really want to get the pack, that's cool. I think that they would be worth it in anyone's artistic arsenal. So definitely go check these out. They are worth it. Some little pitfalls, as every fine liner has, but if you give it a sec to dry, it's gonna be great, right? Like I said, the weight, the feel, and the flow of ink is absolutely fantastic. Definitely go check these out. I highly recommend these for you. They are good. Just let them dry. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you got something out of it. If you did, please go ahead and hit the like button, share it with your friends, and if you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so that you know when I post new content. The Is It Worth It's come out every single week, and I'm always looking for suggestions for what you would like me to review. And I have some suggestions that are coming through that after October will be present, so you will see your suggestions coming through. I want to say thank you so very much for your support, and I will see you at the next video. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to check out some of my other videos, click on the link on your right. Or, if you're interested in a more behind the scenes and personal look at what I do on a day-to-day basis, please click on the link that leads you to the vlog. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at the next video.